speak about Power BI and how to call a REST API using Power BI. But before kicking off this presentation, I will tell you some things about me. So my name is Iuliana Zohashu. I'm a senior data engineer, and I have 8+ years of experience in the industry. I'm currently working at Soft Entity. I'm passionate about data, and it's the first time I presented at SQLBits. I'm very, very excited, but a little bit nervous, so please bear with me. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, I have all the details on the screen. To kick off this presentation, I will start a little bit with the prerequisites, as in order to call a REST API using Power BI desktop, we'll need to run a Python script. So one of the prerequisites is to have the Python installed on your computer, along with the 3 Python libs, the pandas, the matplotlib, and the requests. Another prerequisite is to have the Power BI desktop installed on your computer. I added here the latest version, but it's not mandatory to have the latest version. And the last prerequisite is related to the settings. Actually, it's a default setting, but in case you have trouble installing the above tools, you may need to check the settings and ensure that the Power BI desktop is configured accordingly to run Python scripts. For the purpose of this presentation, I used the currency conversion endpoint. And I set here a goal to display, using a table visualization, the following information: the current currency, the conversion date, the value after the conversion, the target currency, and the sum of money to be exchanged. In fact, we'll call a REST API with 3 parameters, with 2 from and a sum of money. And we have here the Python script. As you can notice, we have the URL, we have the API key, and we have at the end of the script a method called read JSON. So we'll read the JSON into a pandas data frame so that we can easily transform the data using Power Query afterwards. This is the data frame after calling the REST API. And now I will get back to Power BI, and I will do the same. So under the get data, we'll pick Python script from here, paste the script, then OK. And here we have the data frame. We have 2 options: to load the data or to transform the data. We'll transform the data. And here, for what we need, the success and the info columns are not needed, so we are going to remove them. And now we ended up with the query, the date, and the result. So, and we need to apply additional transformations so that the data to be easily read under a table visualization. Let me get back also to the presentation to explain in detail. So, as I mentioned, we'll remove the unnecessary columns, the success and info columns. Then we will filter out those values that are empty, or let's say null. Then we'll perform an unpivot to all the 3 columns to have them displayed under the same column. Afterwards, we'll remove some duplicates and we'll perform a transpose. And in the last step, we will basically rename each column. OK. So I'm going to filter out the blank values. Now let me unpivot the columns. As you can see here, we have everything under the value column. Okay, now let's remove duplicates. And we ended up with distinct values. Now let's transpose this table. We need to remove the first row, as we don't need it. And the final step would be to rename these columns. The first column will be the current currency. Then the conversion date. Then the value after conversion. Then the target currency. And the last one, sum of money to be exchanged. And here it is. Now let's apply the changes. We have here the data frame. Now let's pick a table visualization. And now let's drag and drop all the columns here. So we have the conversion date, which is 16th of March. We have the current currency, the US dollar, the amount to be exchanged, 125 US dollars, the target currency, euro, and the value after conversion, 117. So we called a REST API that basically converted 125 US dollars to euro using a Python script. So this is the last step. Before this is the end of the live demo, but before ending the presentation, we have the Q&A session along with the QR code for the feedback. As I mentioned, this is the first time I present a SQL Bits, so for me the feedback is more than appreciated.
I have two questions actually. First of all, why are you not just using the web API connector? And the second question is that, to my understanding, the requests library of Python is not supported in Power BI Service. So what will you do when you publish that report to Power BI Service?
That's an interesting question. I used the request just for the purpose of this presentation, but from what I know, there is also other possibility to run this Python script, as we can do a lot of things using Python. If you can please repeat the first. Why am I using DF? I know the simple way is to use a web, that web connector, let's say, and then the JSON will be automatically recognized. However, if you have something more complicated, let's say you'd like to store the API key into a separate file, then you need to perform additional coding. So this way, by let's say calling the REST API using Python, you can do more things, more additional things. But also the web connector is a very good way of calling a REST API.
Other question around the second part that the lady mentioned around the using Python. In the meantime, I googled it up because I was curious. Now, while the Power BI service will not support the refresh, any kind of usage of Python or R will actually run locally. So this would require for you to be able to refresh it in the service, you will need a gateway, which is going to connect locally, run the script, and then push the data forward to the service. So we are able to run it, but we need the gateway for it.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here. I wish you a great week ahead. In case you have any other questions, I'll be around in the following days. Thank you.